You know what, Jamie? Let's pop off right now. We got to get started.
We got to go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's get the people in the chat. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uwayama, Mr. Jamie University. Happy Halloween, everybody. It's October 31st, and it's Tuesday. We got a Mailbag show. We're going to be discussing questions we got from Irish Sports Daily customers about all various aspects of the Notre Dame football team. Plus, we are going to talk about Dabo going a little unhinged to start his as part of his radio call-in show, which in and of itself is kind of unbelievable that he has a radio call-in show. But we're going to talk about that and then go into the questions. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If this is your first time catching us, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know that we're going live. Links to our podcast, if you prefer that format, are in the description below. And usually, Jamie, this is about the time when I do my ESQ ad read. But today, we're gonna do a submitted a testimonial, if you will, on ESQ from one of the Irish Sports Daily members. This comes from Go Fight Win ND. Went to the game Saturday, stayed a couple extra days in Chicago. This morning, went over to ESQ to try on the bamboo shirt. Wow, it is what everyone says. So soft, so comfortable. Abby, the manager, helped us and couldn't be nicer. Ga came out and said hello as well. All their stuff is just beautiful. Bought one shirt, but look forward to getting more. Really great experience all around. Oh, and the ISD, a 15% ISD discount. Go Irish. So look, Jamie, we're hawking the gear, right? We're always talking about it. We are paid to do so, but this is a true testimonial from someone who actually took advantage. If you go online, esqclothing.com, use ISD15 as the promo code, you get 15% off all the online items. So you do that, right? This is a true thing that in this thread, a bunch of people also commented about how they're very happy with their ESQ products and everything that they've gotten there. The shirts, everyone loves them, worn by Notre Dame's top players and coaches. So go check it out. ESQclothing.com, ISD15 for 15% off. All right, Jamie. Let's see. Coach Humph. Well, let's. You got a little illness going through the family right now, Jamie. Is your son going to partake in the Halloween festivities? Is he dressing up? What's his costume?
I mean, so far he's back at school today. So if he's, if I don't get a call during this podcast to come pick him up, then I think he'll probably be okay for today. We'll probably keep it short. We're not going to go too far. I mean, he's 4 years old, so it's
right,
yeah. But he's a Ghostbuster. So just a nice, easy costume. You know what? Just good tip. Even though it's ridiculous for kids' costumes these days, the prices are stupid.
Yeah.
But just a good tip for people: just get something easy that you can just kind of put on and like take off easy. And then that's don't get the unless your kid is old enough to want something specific. Just get something easy.
Yeah, my kids are. The youngest is Elsa, which is just a dress and a little crown, and she's got her little wand and that's everything. My son is Iron Man, so that's easy. Just a little suit, little mask, and my daughter's Taylor Swift. My oldest daughter's Taylor Swift. So she has a dress and everything. Very simple, very simple. It's got to be a little bit more. We got a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, so they need to canvas a little bit more now that they're older. But they've got a nice friend group, so that's going to be really fun. And they're not really scared by Halloween or anything like that. At night, a little bit, like some of the houses, they can get a little bit. They play the music. Some of them shoot off the smoke, it's like awesome. It's like very cool, but it scares the kids. And some things that scare other people, Jamie, is when you call into a talk show for your head coach. And look I think Tyler from Spartanburg, he definitely baited him. I mean, look he wanted a reaction, right? I think he went on there and he's gonna, why are we paying you? And first of all, he said we, like, excuse me, Tyler from
Yeah.
Spartanburg, you are paying zero. So
Yeah.
you are you are not responsible for
Yeah.
that. That's the first thing. Why are we paying you to go 4-4? As you pointed out, 7-7 in the last 14. That's probably where I would have gone with it, right? If you're going to give the fuller picture, because Dabo last year is like, well, we won 11 games. It's like, you're, well, in the last 14, you're 7-7,
Yeah.
700, or I mean, 500, excuse me. So, but Dabo took the opportunity. I would play the audio if it wasn't 5 minutes long, but it is
Yeah.
long. So he went on and on about his accomplishments and everything. I put on our text chain yesterday with the ISD text chain. I kind of thought Dabo had a point. Like I think he was right. And
I mean,
I
he
don't.
was right. He was right.
Yeah, I don't think you disagreed, but a little bit unhinged, Jamie.
Yeah,
So
definitely unhinged.
where did you come out on the whole situation?
Well, first of all, I think those call-in shows are stupid. I don't know why they do it. I guess it's like still a thing in the South, right? That they do it, like Saban. I think Saban told off a caller last year or a couple of years ago or something like that. Like it's just like, I guess it's part of the thing, so you kind of have to deal with it. But like, come on, why are we doing this now?
Yeah,
Like,
Nigurel says the call-in shows are big in the South. Saban still does one, he says.
Yeah, they're just like, okay, like that's what, or screen the calls better.
Yeah.
Screen the calls better, right? So that's the other thing. Like, don't let Tyler from Spartanburg like get in there, you know. But I mean, in saying that, like, not Dabo wasn't wrong, um, and I guess like the best case scenario is like he's like showing that obviously he's passionate and he cares, and he's
Yeah.
like he's his players are like, yeah, like, hell yeah, let's, Dabble's still in, so I'm fired up. The worst case scenario is that like they lose this weekend, and I mean Tyler might call in again. Like he might call in again, right? Like that's
So
the kind of thing that,
a recurring segment.
well,
Dabo talks to Tyler from Spartanburg.
it's like, because it's different when it's like your team is like rolling and you can just say like, listen, whatever, right? Like this is what's going on. And there is, a little bit of truth to them being like, they gave away some of those games. Like they lost that Duke game with all those red zone turnovers.
Yeah.
They had the double overtime game. Like they didn't, NC State didn't outplay them. They had like 3 more plays that were the difference in the game, essentially. But you still lost all those games. Mm-hmm. And NC State was whooping those teams before, or at least whooping 3 out of 4, maybe dropping 1 or something. Like they got problems there. They're legit an average team. They're an average or maybe slightly above average. Because they have a really good defense, but the offense has serious problems. So, I mean, when you're the guy who's on the top of the pedestal and you're preaching this and that, whatever, right? You got to be able to take it too. And that's just part of it, right? Like, and it's why a lot of these, and it's not just Dabo, it's college coaches in general. Which is one of the reasons why I've been so impressed with Marcus Freeman, because he handles all this stuff so well, like when it's gone bad, which makes me think like, oh, that's like how an NFL coach, like the good ones, kind of handle it, But the ones who are unhinged, the guys who don't last, are like guys like Dabo, guys like Urban Meyer, right? Like, so that's kind of where I'm at with him, is like, man, I just think there's a lot that can go wrong for them the rest of the year. So Oh man, I don't know. They better not take calls next week because I just think, or maybe in the future weeks, it's just I think it could go really bad.
Well, now people are just like going to call in and try to trigger him again.
Oh yeah,
That's basically what it's going to turn into. My read on Clemson, just to get into him a little bit.
Oh,
I
sir,
think it's
just one last thing.
go ahead.
Tyler is a loser. Like that guy's a loser. That guy's a message board geek. Get that loser out of there.
Get him out
forever.
of here.
And get him out of here. And no disrespect to whatever message boards and stuff like that too, because ISD specifically has a great board. Overall, right? Very few issues with the ISD's board. I think it's one of the best communities out there. But there's obviously a lot of other Notre Dame boards that aren't quite as friendly and as cordial. So Tyler is one of these losers. Like Tyler, block Tyler's number.
Yeah. I will honestly, like, to your point you just made, ISD does have a very good board. Like it does. Like it's you've been on message boards. I've been on a lot of message boards. It's good. It's not like there's some people who are just like
there's
kind
some
of
troll,
but it's like it's very self-policing. Get out of here. Like people don't want that. People don't want that at ISD. So that's good. Head over to isportsdaily.com. Sign up. Yeah. $10 a month. Let's get a couple of Matthew Patterson's sharing his children. We got a firefighter outfit for your 2-year-old at Costco. That's good stuff. Tyler Hack says his daughter is a witch and his son is a triceratops. Is 2 years old. So that's very fun. It's all a lot of a very good time with the children. All right. So here's the thing with Clemson, in my opinion, is like they are the classic, like pretty good team, bad record, where it's like they can do a lot of things. Like they can hurt Notre Dame, especially defensively, right? Offensively, they're struggling, but it doesn't take. It's like look at NC State. Like look at how they won a game. Like their offense is terrible, and they won a game 24-17, right? Like you can have a bad offense and find a way to win. And so this game's going to be difficult, and I think that's what's kind of reflected with the betting line, right? Like if you have a good defense and you can stop people and you can make things difficult for offenses, and the fact that they're at home, right? Notre Dame hasn't been very good at home. It's going to be a tough game. I think Dabo, it's just like some truth to what he's saying, a lot of truth to what he's saying. Obviously, the delivery is not as always what gets people in trouble. And so, it was a little unhinged, but it wasn't irrational, I guess. Unhinged, but not irrational is the way that I would put it. And thank you for the content, Mr. Dabo. Yeah. That's good stuff for people who are just putting content out there. Karen's daughter just saw Estime on campus. Hopefully, her daughter's at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
and not on some other campus. All right, so let's get to the questions, Jamie. Very excited. We got a lot of good questions today. We'll skip past the testimonial. Go fight, win, ND. All right, CHSFB 75. Can we expect Mike Mickens to get promoted to DC since Lou Anarumo is getting an NFL head coaching job and likely taking Al Golden with him to be his DC? Please tell me the forecast for Clemson Saturday doesn't have any rain. The last part I checked, and it's supposed to be clear skies Sunday. Nice day in Clemson, South Carolina. All right, Jamie. Mike Mickens promoted to DC if Al Golden moves on to the NFL. What do you think?
I think I would say he's the heavy favorite, at this point. I would say it's kind of a little bit like, Clark Lee with Mike Elko leaving. I'd say he would be, a prime candidate for the job. Not to say that it's like 100% slam dunk, but it would be pretty close. Like, I think you heard what Marcus Freeman said about him. I've heard that if that would be, he would definitely be like a top candidate if that's what happens with Golden. Like if Golden would have left this offseason, I think Mickens would have been a candidate. Right. Yeah. So, Yeah, and I mean, I think you can't argue about obviously the job that he's done with his position group. Obviously, the guy is well respected within the staff. I also think that it's a bit of a different situation with a guy who's like a first time coordinator, um, especially because his boss is also his old boss who was a coordinator. I think it probably means that Marcus Freeman would be a little bit more involved with the defense than he is now, at least to start, to kind of make sure things go smoothly. Like he's not going to throw, you know, Mike Mickens to the wolves if Texas A&M is his first game on the road there or whatever, right? Like he's going to be pretty involved with that. But yeah, I would say he's a really, really strong candidate.
I mean, you want to keep talented people in your building, right? I mean, he's built maybe the best cornerback room. I mean, it's in recent memory, right? I mean, you're going back to the 90s, basically. It's just they're playing at a high level, developing. Matt says it's snowing in Matt says it's snowing in South Bend, and he's not happy about it. And so he's not happy about it. I can't use the words that he used, but so you want to keep talented people in your building. He has built the cornerback room up, and the defense is playing at like historically good level. You want to keep as much of that intact as you can if Al Golden was to move on. There are aspects to Mike Mickens' candidacy that we cannot know, right? We don't know how Marcus Freeman views the way that he thinks about the game or the way he thinks about coordinating or any of those things. Like it's impossible for us to know that.
Yeah.
But just looking at it, like you want to keep this in the building. It would like, okay, if Chancey Stuckey was at Notre Dame for the last 3-4 years, right? And Notre Dame had an offense the caliber of what Notre Dame has, and Jared Parker was to move on somewhere, you would be like, well, can Chancey Stuckey do it? You know, like you would just or Dylan McCullough or someone like that. Like you would want someone within the staff who's been around the staff for a really long time and they were excelling. You would want them to be the one to do it, right? Like you would want to keep that situation going. So that's how I view it. And yeah, so I think he would be a very, very likely candidate there. Seat Pampson says, with the injury to Evans, are we set to see Chris Tyree's role expand significantly? 20 snaps doesn't seem like it's nearly enough, given he has been the single consistent big play threat throughout the season. Given the percentage of plays from the slot and the Evans injury, would you roll someone out? Would you roll out more 10 personnel? Speaking of Matt Freeman, he's shouting him out. Matt loves this question. More 10 personnel for Notre Dame on offense. So what do you think, Jamie? You think Chris Tyree? You think Chris Tyree should see the benefit of more snaps being available in the slot?
I mean, I think yes. I think you should. Like, I think that it probably means they will do a little bit more 10 personnel. But I think, or not 10 personnel, but like 11 personnel. 10 personnel, like what have they done at like 3 plays this year? Like could they do it a little bit more? Yeah, maybe. But like they still have depth issues at receiver. You know, we still Jaden Thomas, how healthy is he after that post? He didn't really look that all that healthy. After that looked better earlier in the game. So I guess it depends on how they feel about all the receivers. And the other thing is that, like, even though I'm not saying that Chris Tyree shouldn't get more touches, but how Evans was used is so, like, you have to fundamentally change the offense if you're just really going to just go flip and just say, okay, well, now Tyree, you're getting all these snaps that Evans got. Like, that changes so much and not really in a way that kind of fits Notre Dame, really, right? And so I don't think like Tyree's going to play like 50 snaps again or any kind of thing like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't see it. Do I think he should get like 2 to 3 more touches in a game? Yes. Like I definitely think he should. I just think that you're just going to see, a little bit less 12 personnel, but they're still going to run it. They're still going to run it, and you're going to see more of Eli Raridan in that inline role. When they do go 11, Holden Stays is going to be the guy when it's out in the slot, right? When it's like line up in the slot, he's going to be those guys. So he's going to have a great opportunity, because a lot of those times, like, I think, Evans won, and I mean, I don't think Stays obviously hasn't been at the level that Evans has been, but I think the potential is there for him to be close to that level right now, and eventually get to that level, next year too. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity for him. And I think Stays has done really, really well with his opportunities as a receiver for the most part. I think he's got like one drop on the year that I can remember. And he's just a different player than Evans in terms of what he can do in line, though. So, like, he's not a great inline player right now. So it's just a little bit different in how you use it. You become a little bit more predictable, to be honest, if you're going to use that way. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I mean, Flanagan is someone too that I think, man, he's really impressed when I've seen him in there. And obviously, it doesn't hurt that he caught a touchdown in that, even if it's garbage time, right? Like, it's a good sign.
So the thing with going 10 is like the difficulty now of adding just kind of like a style of play that you haven't used for the previous 8 games, and you'd be going to it because of an injury, not because you planned on it. That's difficult, right? Like, that's asking for like poor execution and sloppiness, which is not what you want going against a defense like
Just
Clemson.
for a bowl game, a little bit more time, that'd be different.
Right. So for the bowl game, I think that's something that we could see for sure. The thing that I was thinking about yesterday, and it really frustrates me that I think the situation was mishandled, is I think this would be a great opportunity to kind of put Jaden Thomas into that kind of role where it's like you put Stays in line and then you put Jaden Thomas in kind of that H-back situation. Because he's such a key
I wouldn't
player.
put Stays in line. I just don't think he's been good in line.
So you would if
I were going to do that, I would play Raridan or Flanagan in line, and then if you're going to do that kind of motion thing with the H-back with Thomas, that's what I would do.
Okay. All right. So then you take him out of the game. But I just think you could do so much with what in the receiving game that Evans gave you. I think you could get that from Thomas, but Thomas is not healthy.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been healthy. And like, Marcus Freeman said it, like he got hurt in the Ohio State game, missed Duke. He played 35 snaps against Louisville and then 6 against USC and then 11 last week. Like, clearly there was a setback. That's terrible. You couldn't have a setback with the hamstring. And they've gotten it. And now you kind of need him, and he'd be a great solution for you. And it's like, well, can it be a solution? Because he's not healthy. So we'll see. I think it could be that. As far as Tyree, I think you can give him more. I think you can intentionally target him more with the snaps that he's getting rather than him just kind of being out there. And I do think it's possible because so many of the plays that I think are available to Tyree have been going to Evans.
Yeah.
And so you could emphasize it different that way. So it's a good question. It kind of remains to be seen. D. Lemire asked kind of a fun question. Feel free to slot this on a different day because it's not stupid. Don't say that, D. Lemire. What's the dumbest way you have ever seen someone physically or mentally prepare themselves for a game? How did it work out for them?
I haven't had too many like weird teammates that did like super weird stuff. Like,
nothing like Joe Boo in Major League, like no one doing like a ritual of that, like in their lockers.
No, nothing like that. And then I mean, pretty standard stuff for most people. Like when I coach too, like people just listen to music, whatever, they do their own thing. No one has like I never had anyone who had like crazy stuff. I guess if like I've seen anything the craziest, it was like John Henderson, the old defensive lineman for the Jaguars. I don't know if anyone's seen the NFL films of him getting like slapped by the one
Oh
trainer
yeah,
before every game.
yeah,
And then he was like, let's go, like right after. It was like,
yeah.
yeah, like that was pretty nuts. I never had any like weird rituals or anything like that I saw from anyone.
I- we had I had a couple big vomiting guys like Kurt Heinisch in high school. Like it's like guys had to go throw up before every game. It was like they had to. And I was just like, why are you doing that? Like you're just depleting your energy. Like it's not like you're gonna throw up and then go eat. Like you need your energy. Why are you doing that? But they had to do it. They had to do it to I don't know, settle their nerves or something. They would get too hyped up and they would go throw up and then they would go play. It's like, okay, man, whatever. Like I personally need the energy in my body. I can't be throwing up beforehand and then feel like I'm not just gonna fully cramp up later. Like it's just not something that you can have. But that was what happened. That was what happened. So that was probably the weirdest thing that anyone ever did as far as like preparation. I had a friend who like before track meets, he would warm up like for 2 hours. He had the longest warm up you ever heard of. And again, it was just like, Jay, you're gonna get tired. Like we're running. You can't be burning yourself out before. But that was what he did. That was what he did. He was really good though. So that's good stuff. Extra ND 1994 asked 2 questions. Who benefits from Marcus saying he wants to take deep shots? And who benefits most for Evans being hurt? I think we got into number 2 a little bit there, but who benefits from Marcus saying he wants to take deep shots? Who benefits the most from that?
I mean, I would think Tyree for one.
Yeah.
Jordan Faison. I think that's a thing. They just hit excuse me. Him showing that he could win a one-on-one like that against Louisville. I mean, he's the guy because he's got the speed. And I think Tobias Merriweather. And I mean, I just think that Tobias Merriweather, him getting that one play in the game, yes, I know the game was already out of hand or whatever, but like he has 3 catches of 40 yards or more this year. Notre Dame had 4 as a team last year. I mean, Tyree's got 4. Obviously, he leads the team. But like just kind of showing you like what that presence means and what it could mean.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know if they're like, oh man, we got to take a couple deep shots to Merriweather a game. He's got to do more of that. But him making that one play, that gets him another one. You know, that's kind of how it usually works. So I would think those guys for sure. And I just wouldn't trust Jaden Thomas on a deep shot right now just because I don't know how well he can run, right? I don't know how well he can run. So the other thing is too, is that like, it's one thing you say like taking more deep shots and everyone's like, oh, we got to take more deep shots. And yes, you do somewhat, but it's got to be more of like that play action to Flores is what they need more of, right? That's what they need more of rather than just straight like, you know, taking so many deep shots. Like what they're doing right now in terms of like, you know, you've highlighted a lot, Greg, about like the trips where they've been getting those matchups and then attacking the middle of the field. And obviously Hartman has thrown it well, which, you know, we kind of talked about briefly that I don't think that Flores ran that route properly there, right? But like, so that pick wasn't on Hartman. So I think more of that kind of stuff is definitely like what I would see. I mean, that's another thing. Flores, even though he, you know, made the catch and run in the other, like him not running that route properly is probably like maybe he's not getting thrown to there next time. It just all that kind of stuff adds up.
Yeah. I think part of it too is like I think Notre Dame has kind of always had these opportunities in their offense. They've just chosen to go a different direction within the play. It's like, well, just look to the other side, right? Like look to the area where it's like you can take a shot here. I think part of it last week was like Pitt specific too. It's like they are vulnerable. They have always been a vulnerable team. Notre Dame has always gotten over on Pitt, like deep. That just the nature of the way that they play. And I think Clemson's a little bit of a different animal, but at the same time, like if you get those opportunities, they've had them in every game. They had them against Duke. They had them against Louisville. They just didn't hit them, right? Some of them they did, right? They won the phase on. The one to phase on is the same route concept as the touchdown to or the deep shot to Tobias, right? Or the deep shot to Tyree. Like it's the same route concept. It's just that the safety chose the other direction, and Hartman threw it to phase on there. And so like that route combination has been a winner for Notre Dame all year. So keep doing that. And I think getting Tobias specifically, like getting him in the slot, getting him in the middle of the field, like all their other stuff has been when he's wide. And it's just like whatever reason, Notre Dame has not thrown well to out wide when it's not in the middle of the field. It's just been a problem all year. And so if you get him inside, that's where it is, you know? And so that kind of a benefits where, like, if you could say, well, where does it benefit Evans? It's kind of the same thing. Like Evans run 4 verts with Tobias Merriweather in that Evans spot, with Tyree on the other side, right? Like run verts that way. And then you've really got something up the seam there. So that's kind of where you could see, a benefit from Evans going out. And we should say, like, it's kind of crass and unfortunate about the game of football where you talk about benefits of someone getting hurt. Like Mitchell Evans getting hurt is like it sucks for him. It's awful. Like it's a 37-0 game, which isn't putting anything on Marcus Freeman. Like there's starters out there all the way. Like, and it could have happened any time. It's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate that it happened. And you feel for him, right? Because he was having such a great season and he was really breaking out. And this really, like, no matter when he comes back next year, like it stunts the growth, right? Like you have to stop playing football. So that sucks for him. And hopefully he can get back healthy and everything goes well there. But it's unfortunate to see him go down. Just having a really good season. He was kind of breaking out as a player. Brent Smith is here. He says, greetings. Thanks for being here, Brent. Appreciate you tuning into the show. Drew Brennan asks, the play to Rico Flores, where Hartman hit him 60 yards, was exactly the type of play that a lot of us have been asking for weeks. There was a sweep fake toss, which led to the defense to the left, and then Flores was streaking to the right and was wide open. What do you think prevented Parker from running that type of play in the weeks prior? It could have been sorely needed against Louisville, Duke, and USC. It's interesting, Jamie, because they did run this a bunch against NC State, and they shredded them with it. And then we haven't seen it as much against those other teams. Do you think that's matchup specific? Do you what would you say in terms of why in this game and not other games?
I do think some of it is like when things are going good, you're like thinking about I'm setting this play up and whatever. You have a lead, you're doing that, and when things aren't going as good, you're not like as forward thinking as a play caller. And I think that's just pretty natural, right? So I think that's probably some of it. The other part is they've called some play action stuff, and Hartman has thrown it to the wrong guy before, right? Like the one to Evans, right? Where he threw the 50-50 ball. It stays in the flat. It's right there, right? And there was another one. It was a similar play. I don't believe it was off of like a fake toss of that toss crack play, but there was another one to Evans to Flores where he just missed him, and he could have had him, or he could have taken the one to Thomas underneath. So some of it is on Hartman too, right? Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. I don't know. I just thought, I think too, you kind of realize when you have time, you have the time in between when you have the couple weeks, really, you have that time to kind of look at everything and be like, man, we got to set this up better and whatever. And maybe especially when there's heat on you, like you're just thinking about like just getting this right, like getting alignment right on some of the stuff that they screw up on Louisville, rather than all the other kind of stuff that really sets up big plays. And that, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate, but that's kind of, I think, a reality.
I'm simmering on a take. I kind of need to see how this game goes specifically. But I'm simmering on a take that it just so the way that it worked out with Greathouse and Thomas going down, he being Parker, it just the way that it went with Duke and then Louisville, 2 road night games, 2 good defenses. It just they had to move Tobias off of the field into the boundary. You had to insert Flores into a much bigger role. You had to try to insert Faison. I'm just kind of thinking that Parker didn't know what he had. They didn't have enough time to actually figure out, like, what can we actually do with these guys in these positions, and just kind of went with the bland things that he knew that they knew, basically. And once they got into the bye and he figured out more of his personnel, they were able to self-scout, not just their plays, but also like their personnel, and figure out what they could do. He created better offense, because what they did do against Pitt, and we said this like right after the game, both of us in the post game, like they actually were doing some very good things in the first half. They just kept messing up. Like they kept throwing interceptions, or getting stopped on 4th down. Right.
Yeah.
And so but I do need to see a little bit more. Like I need to see the Clemson game specifically, to see, like, was it just learning your personnel and what they could do and kind of building around those guys, or was it just kind of not being able to recognize how to hurt teams, right? So
yeah.
That's all kind of to be determined, and we'll see. I'm actually kind of excited to see, because I do think there is decent evidence to where Thomas and Greathouse went out, he didn't know what to do, and then he had to build around it, found some things during the bye, and we move forward from there. Let's see. Wax Waxerps. We'll go with that. Did we see enough positives from Steve Angeli versus Pitt to be comfortable not taking a transfer quarterback this offseason? He looked very poised behind both first and second string offensive lines. I'm going to ask you the question, Jamie, that I asked you before. And I think it's a big deal regarding Steve Angeli. We had a question in the chat about Cam Rising and guys, things of that nature. So we're going to kind of get into that here as well. We've seen Steve Angeli in 2 spring games. We've seen him in a couple of games this year. And the sample size is way too low. But have we ever seen Steve Angeli play poorly? Ever?
Yeah, I think it was bad in like the one in the spring game this year, right? Like he wasn't good in the spring game this year, but like that was just one thing, and it wasn't like he wasn't set up to play well. But that's about it, to be honest. He's looked in every kind of like little small sample size that he's done. He's looked good. He's looked good. I mean, I would say that Saturday was the best he's looked. He looked really sharp.
Yeah.
You just don't see that a lot from backup quarterbacks who come in and like are like that on point to the like in terms of ball placement and timing of throws, where it was like, man, every single thing they had a chance to like make something after the catch because of how on point he was.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say you can't just judge that. It's one day is one day. But they see him all year. That helps. It definitely helps getting in and doing that kind of thing. I don't know. Like the one thing that I think that you would fear with like saying, okay, we got to stick with our guys. We got to go with Angeli. We got to go with Minchie and Carr and do that. And we're not going to take a transfer, is that first game is on the road at Texas A&M, and they are going to have, unless like they have a mass exodus of players, which I mean technically could happen, but they are going to have a real defense. Like it's going to be a very good defense. It's because it's going to be like a new season, new hope. Like it's going to be wild. That's going to be a night game. That's going to be a very big game, and a very tough atmosphere. And that is a very tough place for anyone to make their first start. So I think that is somewhat of a factor when looking at the transfer stuff. But I don't know, like, I mean, Steve Angeli, if you just keep doing what you're doing, and I mean, I know they like Minchie and stuff too. So, yeah, it becomes a good problem to have to think about.
Yeah. I think maybe what Angeli has done is raised the level of quarterback that they would be willing to take. So like, okay, like Hudson Card, for example. Like, I don't know that they'd be like, you know what, we're going to look at Hudson Card like seriously next year. Where it's like this year, this past year, like I do think they looked at him seriously. And I think with Steve Angeli, it's like, no, that's not on the table for us. Like he needs to be better than that. And like better than a Hudson Card type. And so I think that's what he's done, right? Like we have a question later about Riley Leonard. And I'll put the question up from the person asking, but we'll kind of address it here. Like to me, Riley Leonard is a no-brainer. Not just in terms of talent, but in terms of like what he is already running like pro concepts with Duke. And so he is the exact type of quarterback that you want. He's a good runner as well. And so you have to do it if it's Riley Leonard. Like to me, you have to. If it's Cam Rising, I don't think you have to. I just don't. And the Jalen Daniels from Kansas, like you would look at him, but is there a scheme fit, right? And I think we've seen this year, scheme fit's very important. You can't just take a guy. Like I do think you need to have someone who projects into the type of offense that you're running. So that matters. And so I think what Steve Angeli's done is Notre Dame's going to be like, hey, like you got to be a good fit, and you got to be like good, like Riley Leonard type good. I think that's what he's done in terms of rather than just like, hey, we need to take just anyone. I think he's that. Brent Smith's not convinced he's a very precise passer. I don't know, man. I think he's not working with a ton at Duke over there.
He's definitely not working with a ton of talent.
And so I just like
He's also working on one ankle right now too.
Yeah, that's tough. It's a gritty. You can't. I mean, just in general, whether he comes in Notre Dame or not, like you just kind of love to see that type of attitude. Patrick Carter says, I heard that a highly experienced college football analyst who has military intelligence background is an expert at discovering tendencies is available. Would Coach Freeman be interested? We've heard a lot about analysts. We've heard a lot about analysts, Jamie, the last few weeks. I mean, look, I will say, no one gathers evidence better than Connor Stallions, right? And no one gets the the video. But you got to know what to do with the video, Jamie. And not everybody does. And I'll tell you who knows what to do with video. And that's VSR Media, which is founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. And here's the other thing. If you or anyone else, so it's like if you go to ISD or you go to ESQ and use the promo code, we will throw up, and you do the testimonial on on the message board. We'll throw it up here just like last time. Same thing with VSR Media. Use the promo code, put it up, and we'll read it on the show because that's what we like to do, Jamie.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. 1980 UI grad. He has 2 questions, so we'll get to them. Offensively, play action has struggled. When I see play action, I watch the O-line. They are in straight pass set. Example, the play where Hartman threw a pick and was called an RPO was clearly just play action. Not a single linebacker step forward. Does this play a role in our ineffectiveness? So let's get to that one first, Jamie. Do you have a problem? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, I have a problem right away with Jason Garrett calling that an RPO when it wasn't. Come on, Jason Garrett. Like, I whatever. It's not he. I mean, the guy played in the NFL. He coached in the NFL. Like, I think you should know what an RPO looks like. It just shouldn't be that hard to screw that up. You know, like, I don't know. It was pretty bad. You know, or if he could have even corrected himself later and it would have been fine. But anyways, yeah, so it was definitely play action. I didn't like that play action at all because it was just, I think that was just basically in anticipation of like the linebackers just biting so hard off of just any kind of run action that they see from the quarterback, or them just calling a run blitz and expecting that, which is why kind of we said that like he should have threw it in the stands or throw up a 50-50 ball outside or something.
Yes.
Not what he did. Like that was a very low percentage throw that he was making. So yeah, like I don't think those are good. Those are good play action plays. And which is why did the other one work? The Flores one work so well? Well, because they gave the same look and they had the same action that not from Evans who was coming across, but everybody else. They gave the same action that it looked like it was going to be a toss crack. Yeah. So they did it. The safeties and the linebackers flowed hard. They ran it twice earlier in the game, and that's what you get from it, right? And it just, that's kind of what you have to do. And sometimes you run plays that you're like, I know this might only get 2 yards, but I'm running it because we're going to run play action off this later on, right? Yeah. Like you kind of have to think that way. So yeah, they need to do a better job of that. They did it in that second half. Obviously, that was a great call and a great play and great execution. But yeah, you got to do more of that and less of that one specifically there.
Yeah, I mean that play action pass. I think they're maybe like they're anticipating man on that, which is it's better to run it in that situation. It's like you said, the linebackers did not bite, and once you see it zone and they're just sitting there, you have to then come off your initial read and try to throw the 50-50 to Flores, or just throw it over his head and throw it out of bounds and move on with your day. It's just it's a play call that's designed for man. You got zone. It's a bummer. You got to move on, which is like, again, it's another thing, Jamie, where it's like, hey, if you have a man beater call on and they're in zone, check out of it.
Yeah.
Run something else, like, or just run the ball, like whatever. It just, that's the type of thing that, that remains kind of frustrating. The lack of ability to get out of bad plays and the lack of hot reads from the offense. That remains frustrating, but it is, it is what it is on that. The second question is about missed throws, overthrowing balls between 10 and 20 yards. We've talked about getting depth on the pass drops. I mean, look, he's been doing it all year. They obviously, if he wasn't doing it the way that they wanted, they would have changed it by now, and they haven't. Yeah. So I don't want to get on the pass depth too much. We've addressed it a bunch, and for whatever reason, that's where they want him to be, and that's where they're running it from. And so, Notre Dame doesn't see it as a problem because they aren't getting deeper on their pass sets. Barney, for Greg, is X Watts better than Kyle? why do we have to like just make it a thing where is one great player better than another great player? You know what I want, Jamie, and what I think about a little too much. You know how the George meme, the George thing from Seinfeld, where George is just kind of staring off. He's on the pier and he's staring
Oh
off into
yeah,
the
yeah,
ocean.
yeah.
That's me thinking about why couldn't Kyle Hamilton just be playing next to Xavier Watts just one time, and they could have just the absolute like greatest defense in the history of college football. That's what I think about. As far as who is better, I think just you can't duplicate Kyle's size, unfortunately. I would have loved it if Kyle Hamilton could have played in a defense with these corners and that front seven and someone like Xavier Watts playing next to him. I think that would have been awesome. It's not what happened. And so it just is what it is. They're both great players. I feel a certain type of affinity for Watts because in 2021, when they put him in there, I was very adamant on like, hey, he looks really good out there. Like he is always around the ball. He is always flying around. He has very good instincts. I think last year it was like he was continually getting better and better and better. And it was just like, hey, like especially the last few games when he was starting, it was just very obvious that like, hey, he has taken the next step. All he has to do now is start making plays on the ball. And then he has done it now. And it's like now he's picking off passes all over the place. I think it's awesome. I love his game. I love the way that he plays. And if I'm the fund, you need to fund Xavier Watts. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Make it so he has incentive to return and improve his game. Because I think if there's any weakness to him, it's like there is a tackling thing that he needs to improve on. And I think that's important. So, but we'll see. What's your take on this, Jamie?
Well, I think he's having a better individual season than anyone that Hamilton had at Notre Dame. I think that can definitely be argued. But I also think that like he's also, like you said, he's benefiting from like some of these balls that are thrown up to him are because of like great pressure up front, right? And he's been there and taken advantage of it. But it's different. Like he's making plays, he's making great plays. But I would say like that pick he made against Duke was probably, I think, to me, in my opinion, I don't know about you, Greg, but like I thought that was his most impressive play this year, right? How like that was just him reading and breaking on it and making a fantastic play. And not that the stuff that he did against USC wasn't great, it was, but I thought that was the best play of the year. But some of that stuff is, happened because he was like directly benefited from what's going on. And I think with Hamilton, you could see like when he was a freshman and he was kind of playing that like on third down and they're playing three safeties and he was the robber a lot, like he benefited from that. But then he didn't get a chance to really be that robber later on because of kind of where they're at and who else they had. So he had to play deep a lot when they didn't really have anyone else. And like, I think Kyle Hamilton, if he was put in a different situation, could have been like making the same amount of havoc plays as Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That's easily could have happened. And you know what? They're both really just like great players. So, Notre Dame fans should be grateful that they get to watch them.
Yeah, for sure. That's how I look at it. CFB Hertz says his tackling has been great, but I ain't no expert. So when he tackles, he tackles. It's a lot like JOK in 2019, really, where it's like when he makes the tackle, it's like that's a great tackle. he also leads the defense in missed tackles with 11. So he's and some of those are a product of the position. We've talked about it before. Like safety is just kind of a position where it lends itself to missing some tackles, but he does lead the team in that category. So look, it's just something that he could get better at, and he probably would with a little bit more time. So it's not a huge weakness of his, but it is something that could get cleaned up. Patrick Carter asks if Kyle Hamilton and both Watts both played on offense, who would have more touchdowns? You know what? There isn't a world where they're the Notre Dame's 2 starting wide receivers and they're doing numbers. And so it's just, hey man, don't be afraid. Put your best players playing both ways. Just ask Prime. Just ask Coach Prime, right, Jamie?
Well, we know he's an expert.
He's an expert on it.
He's an expert who's not going to make a bowl game.
He's not
like,
going to.
Like pretty much everyone predicted before the season. Dion, I keep receipts. Dion, you're going 4-8, probably. Probably not 4-8. He's probably going 5-7. But like, come on, this guy's 1-0. I keep receipts. Give me a break. You beat a bad TCU team. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
All right. Duke Sinatra, 4 questions. Let's go. All right. 1, now that you've had a chance to see Rico Flores play most of the season, what do you think is a reasonable projection for his development by his senior year? Can he become a draftable player, or is his ceiling more like a really good number 3? Let's go for that one first.
Oh, I think he's going to play in the league. I think he's going to play in the league. Yeah. Like he's just one of these guys who he's going to test like decent. When his time comes, he's not going to blow anyone away. He's not running like a 4.4 or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But like, he's going to test decent, but he's just a good player. Like he's just good. He's a good football player. He's like a good he's good at the position. Like he's going to get better at some of the things that he's already doing pretty well. He's going to get bigger and stronger. That's definitely going to happen. And that is going to make a big difference with him because you can see what he does as a blocker and like the effort he gives as a blocker. Some of the stuff of how he's going to win when he's stronger, because he's going to be a guy who wins with like craftiness rather than just straight up like athleticism. Like what he did to Davis Igbenison on that touchdown against Ohio State.
Yeah.
You'll just see like a lot more of that kind of stuff from him over the years. Yeah, he's going to play in the league. I mean, is he going to be a high pick? Probably not. But he will play in the NFL. Like he's just one of these guys. Plus, he is a very, very smart kid. He's a very, very smart kid. He'll be in the league, and he'll be like the way that I would kind of compare it to is kind of like TJ Jones, where people were like, TJ Jones, yeah, he's a nice player. And then obviously had the big senior year. But like TJ Jones was just developed into like a really, really good receiver. And that's why kind of the reason why too, he like stuck around in the league for a little while too. And Rico maybe isn't quite as fast as him, but probably got a little bit more where he's probably going to, I think, eventually be kind of like bigger and stronger.
I wonder if Rico could be that former wide receiver, USC wide receiver. Was he Steve Smith too?
He was Steve Smith as well.
Yeah. I think that's Rico in terms of the route running.
That kind of guy,
yeah. Yeah. Like not big, not like a great athlete, but like just really savvy, really good football player, knows how to get open, and just like kind of like the thing you highlighted there against Ohio State. Like that's a classic like Steve Smith type of touchdown. And so that's kind of where I see that going. I do wonder about his measurables. But that doesn't really matter to me, right? Like I don't really care. Like if he ended up just like Steve Smith, that would be awesome. Like that would be a phenomenal outcome for him. And so, how other teams view him, I just think he could be like a very solid starter. Very happy to have him out there. He's a freshman, right? Like, and I think we've seen a lot of things where it's like if he in a normal situation where he had upperclassmen ahead of him and he came in and did the things that he's doing now, like you'd be very happy, right? Same thing with Jaden Greathouse. Like he's not ready to be like, I'm going to be someone who has 90% of the snaps and the passing game kind of counts on me to be like a successful passing game. That's not what his role should be. Now that is his role. And it was his role against Louisville and Duke, and it didn't go that well. But that's like not a reflection of him. It's just a reflection of circumstance. And I think that's kind of true of Merriweather as well, right? Even though Merriweather's older. So that's kind of how I view him. Would you move Junior Tuli Halamaka back to inside linebacker in the spring?
No, I wouldn't. One, I just think if you just be like, so you just wasted like a year and a half of moving him to Viper.
Yeah.
Unless if I was him, unless they said like, hey, you got a real chance of starting here, then, or we think you'll be the starter. Why would you do it? Like, why would you do it? Because it just doesn't really make that much sense. Because, I mean, you got guys like Bowen. I think Drake Bowen is like, assuming JD Bertrand leaves, and who knows what will happen with Kaiser and stuff too. Like, I think Drake Bowen has a good shot at being the starter at Mike next year. And so he had this year of like working as a Mike linebacker. And then you're going to be like, okay, well now you're back. And it's like, okay, we'll get used to this. Even though you put on this weight and you had to work on all this and that, it's like, I guess they could do it, but it just, I don't know. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think they would have moved him if they thought like, hey, he's going to be the next guy at inside linebacker. If that's what they thought. So I wouldn't.
No, I don't think they're even considering it, to be honest. Like, because for the point you just made, why would you move him if you thought he could be the Mike?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense, in my opinion. So, all right, third question. Angeli has made the most of his opportunities this season, albeit in blowouts. Has your opinion on his ceiling changed? If he starts next year, could he match Book's first season as a starter? 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 68%, 154 rating. Who is your comp for Angeli? Let's put it a better way. Who is your comp for him? Who do you see him most like?
Gosh, who did I put my comp? I can't remember who my comp for him as a recruit was. But I just kind of see him as a guy who's like, he's not elite in any one area, although maybe accuracy he might be like elite if he keeps throwing like that. But like,
Yeah,
he just or maybe poise, because he seems to really like be a guy who just kind of like able to kind of stick down, keep his eyes down the field when a rush is coming too. But he's, he can run, he can escape. He's got like a good arm, not an elite arm, but a good arm. I don't know. I like him. I think it's that Book year because it was like a 3/4 year,
abbreviated year. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I don't even know what, like, comparing the stats, it's like, I don't know. And then the other thing is too, is that like, I think Notre Dame's going to have a team that could really, really contend next year. So they need like a plus quarterback. Like he's got to be really good. So if I don't know where, okay, Brandon Allen, sir. Thanks for looking that up, Tyler. Yeah, Brandon Allen, who was like a very good quarterback for Arkansas, right? Like, I think Angeli could easily be that guy and end up being like a good starter for Notre Dame. But like where he's at next year, it's like they need him to be really good. They need whoever it is to be really good. That's kind of where Notre Dame is at the program right now. Like, they need that guy to be very good. You can't just like wait for the next guy to be like there. You don't want to be like Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett takes 4 years to have a good year. Like you don't want to get into that.
Yeah. I'll let that stand. I think that's good analysis, Jamie. So we'll let that stand. Last question from Duke Sinatra. Purely on their work as defensive coordinators at Notre Dame, how would you rank Golden, Elko, and Lee?
I mean, it's just I don't think you can really rank them because they can't. It's different circumstances for each of them. Because I think of like if Elko would have stayed, then for the 2018 year, the defense would have been just as good. You know, like they would have been awesome that year as well, right? Like so that was the thing. Clark Lee got the benefit of walking into a situation. They were literally first in returning production on defense that year.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all these guys coming back. And then they had, all of these defensive linemen that were like stud guys who are going to be NFL guys who are going into year 3, who were like ready to make a jump. So they had all of that going on. So, Lee did a great job. He certainly did a great job, and he's been there for 3 years. He was there for 3 years and did a great job every year, right? So, by default, because he's been there 3 years and did a great job every year, you would rank him above, the other two. But it's just like, I don't even think it's fair to rank Elko or Golden against Lee yet. Like, maybe we'll see like Golden stays another year and then they have like another great defense, like a defense that's as good or better than this year. Then you say, okay, well, where does it match up with Clark Lee then? I think that's when you can kind of rank it more properly. And then I don't think Elko, I think it's just unfair to kind of put him in the conversation because he walked into a total rebuilding situation.
Mm-hmm.
He had to kind of like build up that defense. And then he didn't get to kind of benefit from that after. He just left, right? So
this is how I answer that question. I think this is my favorite defense in my Notre Dame viewing life. I love watching this defense. It is so fun. Like the things that they are doing, the way that they're playing, the complementary football that they're playing, like between positions, the stuff they have going on in the back, the corners, the safeties, the safety play, it's just I love watching this defense. I am literally going to be sad when this season is over, just because I want them to keep this defense like forever. Like, you know how like I was thinking this yesterday. If there was ever, I've never thought of this, but it's like if there was ever a team that that was like, oh man, I wish it was like pros. Like you could just take this team and move them into the next season.
Yeah.
I honestly, like they would be national champions in my opinion. Like they, and I understand other teams could be able to do it then. I just think that they are that this team is just, if it had another year together, they would be awesome. And so that's how I feel about it in terms of the defense. I just think this defense, watching them play, it's the most fun I've ever had. I love watching their tape. I would watch it every day. Like I think it's great. So
I'd agree with that. I think it is the most well-coached group defense across the board.
Yeah.
At all positions, at all 3 levels. So I guess if you wanted to rank it the peak of kind of like what the peak is, I think this is the best defense that Notre Dame has had out of any of those years. Because I think this is I don't think this defense has more talent than the 2018 defense overall, but like I think this is a better coach defense. Like or they execute the defense better. Yeah, is what I would say.
And which is coaching, and what's also makes the end of the Ohio State game like that much more difficult. That it was this defense that gave it up at the end, and it's just unfortunate, right? Because like the play that DJ Brown didn't make, it's really bad because it was such a good play call, and DJ Brown executed the play so perfectly, and he just
It's
didn't
game
make
over. Yeah.
the last step. You know, it like I've wanted to break the play down for people, but I feel like it's salt in the wound, so I
No,
haven't.
don't do it. Don't.
But it's such a great, oh God, it's such a good design, and he absolutely baits this kid into throwing it right to him, and Golden made the perfect call at the perfect moment. God, it's so upsetting. It's so upsetting. But yeah, I love this defense. It's great. All right. Water MTJ. Out of the twos, what groups have impressed you? Which individuals from these groups have really stood out from limited reps? So let's do that, and then we can do strength and conditioning names because I haven't heard, but you've always got some names. So who of the twos? What units and what individuals?
I mean, the corners, obviously,
Yeah.
they got to really be highlighted in this game. I mean, it's different because, really, like if you're looking at who has kind of played a lot, you only really get the defensive line rotation, right? And I think I've liked what I've seen from the twos, like for the most part from the defensive line, but there's obviously a clear drop off between um, that group and the starters, right? Like Nana has played better and played pretty well recently, but he's clearly a notch below like JJB, right? And Rubio is obviously not as good as Howard Cross, and but I like how Gabe Rubio has played in
Yeah.
the game, and I don't know. So it's not many of the twos play that much overall, and I don't want to judge guys just of like based on what you see in kind of like garbage time, because like those old linemen, it's like, man, it's just not it's such a weird situation to kind of get put into. It's like you're cold, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now run it down the throat of these guys, but they're keeping their starters in. So it's like, it's just, and it's not to say that some guys don't look good, because Stroud looked good in this game, right? And then he came in a little bit earlier and looked good too. But I don't know. I just think it's like it's hard to say. The tight ends, I guess, because those guys, like, I mean, if Stays is your two tight end, he's a pretty good player. Flanagan looking pretty good. I think Raritan had his best game. Looked the most comfortable he did blocking in this game. So outside of that, I mean, and the backs, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Like, just that's kind of where I'd put it. But I don't know about you, like. It's just not enough reps for me for the other guys.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the backs, like assuming Estime moves on, I think Love and Price have potential to be an all-time backfield, like in the history of the school. And I think the Christian Gray with Ben Morrison next year has a chance to be an all-time corner tandem, like even better than the Cam Hart version this year, which is insane because Cam Hart's playing at an incredible level. But Christian Gray seems special. The length that those two have are just like, it's rare. It's super rare to have length like that as your starting corners. And I'm projecting Gray will beat out Mickey for that job. I think Mickey could have a nickel role or something. He'll play a lot. I think Mickey will play a lot next year, but I think Gray and Morrison are going to be the two. And those are them. I mean, those are the guys that, like, the main ones, like you said, who just like have really stood out to me. It's like could be all timers, like just in the history of the school. And that's kind of insane, but I just think that's the case. Rockney75 asks, any chance Riley Mills returns for one more year? Who would be the key 2-3 players for Marcus Freeman to recruit to return for another year? So what do you say, James?
Because I forgot about the strength stuff. I heard a couple things before about it, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So I'll bring it up on another podcast in the future.
Okay.
So, yeah. But I don't think it's like anything decided or anything like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
just whatever, just heard a couple names potential, but I mean, I think there's a chance that he comes back. I mean, there's definitely a chance. I think it just depends on what he wants, right? If he's a guy who will probably get drafted not high right now, but he'll get drafted. And I think he's a guy who could probably get an invite to the Senior Bowl and do pretty well there and all that kind of stuff too. So it just kind of depends. Like, I guess it depends what grade he gets back, all that. Obviously, he doesn't have he's played really well, but like the numbers aren't like unbelievable. Like the box score stuff isn't unbelievable for him. So it just depends what he thinks. But I think he could really benefit because I think he could have like a big jump. He's made a big jump this year, but he'd have a bigger jump if he stayed. So I don't know. Would see. But yeah, he certainly would be a key guy to stay. I think X Watts, Howard Cross, Mills, I would say like CFB Hertz wrote those as the three.
Yeah.
I think those guys would probably, I mean, you could argue that. I think you could say Maris Leofau in there too. I mean, Chris Tyree certainly is a guy like they want to get back. Like that's a guy that they should really, really work to get back. I don't know. No one else at the top of my head. I mean, other guys can stay. I mean, Bertrand obviously would be good to stay, but I just have a feeling he's going to go because he's like started for 3 years and he's been a multi-time captain and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. Like, I think I would say, I wouldn't even limit it to 3. I would say like those 5. Yeah.
I think Tyree, it's just like, look, man, you've had a nice year. You've made some nice plays. Okay. Like you could catch like 50 balls next year. You know what I mean? Like you could be like actual viable. Like right now, to me, it's he's doing great. He's made some great plays. He's not a viable slot receiver in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting drafted right now.
Right.
Just
so it's
opinion,
like, look, if this is about you playing in NFL, like you could catch 50 passes next year for like 800 yards or something and be like a real option. That could happen. I think the thing with people with Xavier Watts, he's graduated. He graduated already. So he already has his degree. So that's a thing where it's like, hey, it's not like he has to stay around for that. Like he's already gotten that. I have no idea where his mind is at with it. If he wanted to go, he could. I don't know what his testing will be like, but that's like not going to change. It's like it's a true like strike while the iron is hot type situation for him. Obviously, I hope he comes back. I want to keep watching him play football for Notre Dame. With Mills, Cross to me is you went in on Mills. Cross to me is like another fun guy. Like make it worth your while. You know, make it worth his while to stay. I mean, we didn't bring up Blake Fisher. I don't know that we need to. He'd be crazy not to come back.
I think it would be insane for him to go right now.
Yeah. And Marist is another fun guy as well. Make it worth their while.
Yeah.
Make it worth their while. And this is the last question, Keenan Knight. What would you take Dukes Riley Leonard or roll with Angeli Menchie next year? I just wanted to bring up the question because we kind of answered that already. We've gone into that. So it's gonna do it for questions, Jamie. Fun show. Another fun show. Another mailbag show. That was great. Had a really good time. We'll be back on Thursday. Are we gonna have the Clemson guy, Jamie?
I don't know, but I got plenty on Clemson if he's not here. So
we got a lot on Clemson. We got a lot to talk about with Clemson. Dabo's probably going to talk again. Maybe he'll say something else. So check us out on Thursday. Check out Irish Sports Daily YouTube show. We're going to have a show with Darren Mabry out, Dimes with Darren. We're going to be talking about the women's exhibition game yesterday and previewing the game in Paris Hen Hidalgo, Jamie. She's it.
She's
I
legit.
mean, she's her, if that's what we're going to say with
Yeah.
that. I mean, 8 of 9, 23 points, I believe it was. 7 rebounds or 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals. She's got it. She's got the stuff. So check that out tomorrow. That's going to be on the YouTube feed. That's where you're going to want to hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Check out that show tomorrow. Check us out on Thursday. Happy Halloween, everyone. Have a good night with your kids, and we will talk to you tomorrow and on Thursday. Keep hitting and hustling.